Okay, I can't sit here and lie to you. Like, these players are terrifying. So hard to figure out what to do. I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, let's trade away Naji Harris. Well, what the hell do you trade him for? What could you actually get? So I want to go through, I want to look at some of these players that people are panicking on. Talk about, okay, should we be going through? Should we be maybe using this as an opportunity to buy low? If we have them on our team, should we be selling them for a bag of potato chips? Or should we just be holding it out, going through this wild ride? But before we get to it, make sure you go down there, drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. I mean, it's my birthday. If you're not going to drop a like on the video for my birthday, I have no idea what you would drop it for. And also, if you have any questions, feel free to go down there, leave them in the comment section if you're not able to come out to the live stream tonight. Last but not least, go take advantage of this. Go take advantage of the under Darren Waller 5 receptions on Underdog Fantasy. You can find the link to Underdog Fantasy in the description of the video, in the comments section. And when you go and sign up for Underdog Fantasy and use promo code FLOCK, they're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. And you can get us some real money best ball drafts with us during the season. I know you've seen us doing them on the live streams. But that should be it. Let's go through. Let's dive into our first player here. Let's go look at Christian Kirk. Now, I didn't really cover Christian Kirk too much in our top 10s lesson learned video because in reality, it's hard to know exactly what we have here. Obviously, very impressive performance from Marvin Jones this past week. But if we're looking at this, I think, honestly, this is just what we should come to expect with Jacksonville. We know that you have 3 wide receivers in Jacksonville, in Christian Kirk, Marvin Jones, and Zay Jones. 3 wide receivers and 3 wide receivers alone that are actually going to be seeing targets, that are going to be running routes. Like if I pull this up, week 5, Jacksonville Jaguars, Christian Kirk, 71 snaps, Marvin Jones, 64, Zay Jones, 59. So this is going to be very comparable to what you have with something like Cincinnati. Where in Cincinnati, of course, they're a much better offense, a much better quarterback, much better receivers. So the production will be better in general. But you know that there could be multiple guys at the very top end of the offense that are productive because they're not using a wide receiver 4. They're not using a wide receiver 5. I mean, here in Jacksonville, you had Jamal Agnew 5 snaps. You had Tim Jones 1 snap. So we know who the ball is going to. I think that you are going to see some natural volatility between guys like Marvin Jones as well as Zay Jones. But if we're focusing in on specifically what we should have with Christian Kirk, I'm not nearly as concerned with Kirk. Because you're looking at a wide receiver that, yes, this past week, 1 reception, 3 targets, 11 receiving yards. Like, that is gross. You would rather the Jacksonville Jaguars be able to score more than 6 points against the Houston Texans. But if we take a step back, if we look at what we've had from Christian Kirk the entire season so far, 12 targets week 1, 6 targets week 2, 9 targets, 9 targets. I mean, he has had that consistent volume. I mean, this is a wide receiver that's averaging about 8.5 targets a game. Hell, I'm fine signing up for 8.5 targets a game. Now, was a tough matchup 2 weeks ago against the Philadelphia Eagles. I kind of want to give him a pass for that game in particular. Should be no excuse against Houston. Now, one other thing that we need to be looking at is how often Trevor Lawrence is turning this ball over. Looking over the past 2 weeks, where Trevor Lawrence, every time you think this Jacksonville Jaguars offense is going to get something going, just immediately goes, okay, hey, do y'all want the football? I'm done with it. Yeah, we drove the ball 70 yards down the field, but you know what? Scoring doesn't interest me right now. Just giving the ball to the other team for no apparent reason. I think with some natural volatility, regression to the mean, that we should assume that the turnovers dramatically come down for Trevor Lawrence going forward, that the Jacksonville Jaguars go back to being able to put points on the board. Now, I'm not saying they're going to be able to average over 30 points a game like they did through the first 3 weeks here. That's not going to happen, but I do think that they are going to be better than they were the last 2. I'm not really panicking too much on Christian Kirk. Maybe we lower our expectations slightly, but honestly, I'm fine still playing him in a full PPR format. Now, going over looking at our next guy in this same offense, let's go and let's look at James Robinson. So with James Robinson, I mean, through the first 3 weeks, the man was averaging close to 100 total yards a game. He was averaging about 90 total yards a game through the first 3 weeks, whereas over the past 2, he's been averaging less than 40 total yards a game. The overall snaps have dramatically come down. At the same time, you've also seen the carries come down for James Robinson. I thought this was going to be the best spot in the world. I thought, okay, well, with James Robinson going up against the Houston Texans, they should be able to win this game by at least a touchdown. They're going to win this game by a touchdown. Hell, they're going to be running him consistently in the second half. Not much has changed here, if we're going to be honest, with the exact role that we have with James Robinson and Travis Etienne. Of course, if we're looking at weeks 1, week 2, going to be a little bit different weeks 1 and weeks 2. It was literally Travis Etienne's first and second NFL game ever. But over the past 3 or so weeks, we've seen the consistent trend. If there's an obvious passing down scenario, if the Jacksonville Jaguars are trailing, you are going to get more Travis Etienne and less James Robinson. However, James Robinson still does have that value, because if they go out there, they beat a team 38-10 like they did with the Los Angeles Chargers, should be getting about 100 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown as they look to run the ball in the second half. They shut out a team like they did the Indianapolis Colts. Hell, you should be getting more than 20 carries in that game for James Robinson. Now, going forward, I think in a full PPR format, I wouldn't mind if you wanted to move off Robinson. Y'all know we've been saying for the past month to sell him for Breece Hall. That train has left the station. You're no longer getting Breece Hall for him. But maybe if you wanted to go and move James Robinson for a very disappointing running back, maybe another guy that's in a committee, but if the other running back in his own backfield were to go down, he's an elite level option, like A.J. Dillon. Of course, we would be looking for a wide receiver upgrade. That could be an interesting move, because I think James Robinson maybe is going to be falling right back in line with what you have with A.J. Dillon, with Kareem Hunt, and guys that, yeah, you could start him on a week-to-week basis. Not too excited about it, but you're going to do it in the bye weeks. And then also, if the other running back in their backfield were to go down, he is that workhorse guy that could be that league winner. So I think that you shouldn't necessarily panic on James Robinson. Just understand his role and dramatically move him down your rankings. Now, going over to our next player, let's go over to the receiver position. Jalen Waddle. Now, y'all know with Jalen Waddle, I mean, I am a Jalen Waddle fanboy. Jalen Waddle, my most drafted wide receiver in fantasy. And through the first 3 weeks, when Jalen Waddle was a top 5 wide receiver in fantasy with Tua Tagovailoa, when Jalen Waddle had over 110 receiving yards per game, I was sitting here, I was gloating, I was going, I'm a genius. I told you so. You should have listened to me. I've never been wrong. Of course, maybe we're a little bit premature in that. Over the past 2 weeks, you've had Jalen Waddle with a combined 8 targets. You've had Jalen Waddle with a combined 5 receptions. You've had Jalen Waddle with fewer than 70 receiving yards. Oh my gosh. It has been nasty in Miami. And I was saying, don't worry about the groin injury. Don't worry about the fact that Tua Tagovailoa is down. Teddy Bridgewater's much worse than Tua, but he's still a respectable backup quarterback. Jalen Waddle can be someone we rank as a low-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2. Clearly, that's just not going to be the case here without Tua Tagovailoa. Maybe it is a little bit of the groin. Maybe it's the fact that they had their third-string quarterback. Their third-string quarterback in here. I know some people want us to take RL, but please get out here. Skylar Thompson was the starting quarterback of Miami. You think I'm going to be panicking on Jalen Waddle? Hell no. Fire up Jalen Waddle. We're running it back. I mean, unless we have Skylar Thompson back this week, but based on the reports, sounds like you should have 100% Teddy Bridgewater good to go. And you better believe I'm using this as a buy low moment on Jalen Waddle. I don't think he's the top 5 wide receiver going forward as he was through the first 3 weeks. Still think he is that low-end wide receiver 1, high-end wide receiver 2 like we expected him to be coming into the season. I'll buy him at a low-end wide receiver 2 price tag all day. Now going over to someone that is also struggling as of late, Michael Pittman. I mean, people wanted to come out and clown on me after week 1 when the Indianapolis Colts tied the Houston Texans, going, oh my gosh, Mason, you're an idiot. Michael Pittman's going to crush you this year. Well, since then, Michael Pittman averaging about 50 receiving yards a week. Michael Pittman, at the same time, averaging about 23 targets a game. This is what I came to expect from Michael Pittman. Like, in reality, I don't think Michael Pittman's been that bad. I just think the expectations were a little bit too high for Pittman coming into the season. It's going to be a very bad offense in Indianapolis outside of the running game. And on top of this, Michael Pittman's not Julio Jones. No matter how many times you want to compare, oh, Matt Ryan was good with Julio Jones. Matt Ryan's going to be good with Pittman. It doesn't work that way. It's never worked that way. It never will work that way. I think Michael Pittman, hell, over the past 3 weeks, he's still been going through and averaging about 8 targets a game. I like the volume. Michael Pittman, I think you just have to kind of see some touchdowns come back to this offense. I don't want to come through and act like I'm some massive Michael Pittman fanboy, but in reality, like, you shouldn't be panicking here. Michael Pittman's a mid-wide receiver 2 in fantasy. He's going to be an alpha target in a very bad offense. Alec Pierce was the wide receiver 1 this past Thursday night. Alec Pierce looked very good. Hopefully he improves the offense. I don't think Alec Pierce is going to be the wide receiver 1 over Michael Pittman. Maybe I went for being way lower on Michael Pittman than everyone else. Now I'm completely fine if you want to go buy the discount on Pittman. I personally wouldn't do it because it goes against the brand, but I wouldn't mind if you wanted to. Now going over to our next guy, let's go and look at an entire team. Let's look at the Los Angeles Rams minus Cooper Kupp. Obviously, Cooper Kupp so far, 5 games played. He's had about 10 receptions a game. He's had over 100 receiving yards a game. He's phenomenal. This is despite Matthew Stafford, 5 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. This is despite Matthew Stafford looking like a bad quarterback in general. And the running backs giving you absolutely nothing in Los Angeles. Like, honestly, after week 1, I was kind of bummed that you had nothing from Cam Akers. Sitting here going, okay, well, I mean, I don't want Darrell Henderson to be a league-winning running back. But at least if Cam Akers wasn't involved, at least if they had one guy starting and one guy taking the touches, you would be able to go through and take some value in this offense. Now when Cam Akers is the first and second down running back, Darrell Henderson is the third down guy. Neither running back startable. Cam Akers is leading the backfield in 5 weeks. 5 weeks, 151 rushing attempts. This past week, Darrell Henderson played more snaps. Darrell Henderson, I think you probably still have to roster Cam Akers, Darrell Henderson, if you have one of them on your team. But instead of viewing them as a Kareem Hunt level player where he's in a committee and if the other guy were to go down in that backfield, then all of a sudden he is a league-winning running back, I would instead view him more like a Khalil Herbert type player. And that, hell, if you have Darrell Henderson going down, Cam Akers probably projects to immediately be a high-end running back too. Someone that you're jamming in your starting lineup immediately. Same thing with Darrell Henderson. I don't even want to compare him to like someone like Alexander Madison though. Because if we're looking at Alexander Madison, obviously Dalvin Cook goes down. He's the top 5 running back. I don't think you would have that with the upside in these backs. So gross. They're worth a roster spot, but it's almost like you'd rather them not be. So you go through and move on and not have to deal with this headache, not have to look at these guys on your bench. And then I'm willing to say this. I didn't like him coming into this season. He's been garbage. Cut Allen Robinson. Said it last week. I'll repeat it again. 5 weeks in, Allen Robinson, 107 receiving yards. Ben Skoranek, 181. Ben Skoranek almost double the amount of receiving yards for Allen Robinson in this offense. Not to mention that Tutu Atwell is going to be coming back soon. Not to mention that, hell, maybe they go after Odell Beckham Jr. Like, dear God, just move on from A-Rob. Move on from A-Rob. Hold the running backs, even though it's gross. The only guy you can rely on is Cooper Kupp. Now going over to another quarterback here. Let's look at Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray going to keep it super brief. He's been bad. Yes, he's been very bad. I mean, he's given you 2 games with multiple touchdowns so far this season, at least passing touchdowns. The passing volume really hasn't been there. He's given you 1 game with over 300 passing yards. Kyler Murray has not been the elite level quarterback he's shaped up to be, but just like we said a week ago, to try to trade Jared Goff and a receiver and go get Kyler Murray because he does have that rushing upside we look for. Hell, he had 42 rushing yards this past week. We've seen 2 rushing touchdowns so far this season. Don't panic on Kyler Murray. I just want to give this little update. He's been bad. He will be better. You had to wait till Rondale Moore came back in. And in 1 more week, we will have DeAndre Hopkins. So you're going to struggle with Kyler Murray for 1 more week. But remember, Kyler Murray has averaged 20 fantasy points per game with no DeAndre Hopkins throughout his entire NFL career. And he's averaged 26 points per game in games where DeAndre Hopkins has played. Going over to our next guy, we are going to be looking at, thumbnail of this video, we're going to be looking at the poster boy of this video. I don't even know what to call it. Naji Harris. Naji Harris, yards per carry by week. 2.3, 3.3, 3.7, 4.1, 1.8. We look back at his longest runs in his career at Alabama. Look back in his longest runs, his rookie season in Pittsburgh. Said this is not a hyper athlete. Naji Harris is not a top end athlete at the running back position. Longest run so far this season, 16 yards. This was similar to what we had his rookie season, but the difference is his rookie year, he was getting every single touch, every single snap out of this backfield. He was getting involved as a pass catcher as well. With this past week, Jalen Waddle has more snaps. Now, yes, that was garbage time. Yes, it was just completely out of hand. But I don't necessarily know how this gets that much better. Unless Kenny Pickett can really turn things around, where this offense is able to start moving the ball, then maybe in that light it could. Like when they were effectively moving the ball against the Jets, you did have 18 carries, 74 rushing yards for Breece Hall. The issue, of course, is the man had 0 targets and 0 touchdowns. So far this season, he only has 2 touchdowns. Like very difficult to see the light at the end of the tunnel for Naji Harris. But the question is, what do you do with him? Please go to the comment section. Let me know if you're able to make a Naji Harris trade this week. What are you getting offered? What are you pulling off? Because I would be surprised if you could trade Naji Harris for Trent Richardson right now. I would be surprised if you could trade him for Chris Carson right now. I don't know what you could get. So I think Naji Harris just falls in line. Cannot start him no matter what the matchup is until we see something change. Bad offensive line. Now a part-time player in a bad offense. Can't cut him. Can't trade him. Just got to bench him. That's all I got for you. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please go down there, drop a like, subscribe to the channel. It does help us out a ton. Like I said, it's my birthday, so if you're ever going to go down there, if you're ever going to drop a like on a live stream, should be this one. And also make sure you go check out the props on Underdog Fantasy. On Underdog Fantasy, find the link in the description. Use promo code FLOCK. They'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar, 200. Available in damn near every single state. Go take the Darren Waller under. But Underdog is not available in Louisiana, Montana, Washington, Hawaii, Nevada, Michigan, Connecticut. I think those are the 7. We got it. Thank you again. I appreciate you. I hope we get to see you in the live stream tonight. If not, I hope you have a great day.